So many people have asked, Joey, Stefanie, is there anything that we can do that will help? You being here, that's what helps. I feel like going through this process has been a part of our journey, and we're excited that we get to be here together, to see all of you here with us. It's an honor. I can't lose it yet. So, go ahead.
All right, well, we have some special guests. So we have our special favorite speech, Michelle, here, and our favorite nurse, Nurse Melissa. So we can give them a huge hand. And we're just so thankful for you being here. And they just represent two people of, a hospital full of people. So thank you.
They helped us through those last couple of weeks. So, you all set?
Let's go.
Okay. I know, it's just like YouTube, right? You get one shot. That's how we do it. So, 11 years ago, I remember being outside on a beautiful day, standing next to my wife, a very pregnant wife, who was very pregnant and ready not to be pregnant at all. 11 years ago, on President's Day, Monday, February 15th, my wife was 6 days overdue, and we were really excited and a bit nervous to meet our son. We were ready to begin the next chapter of our lives as parents. Stefanie went into labor on the next day, and on Wednesday, February 17th at 7:41 in the morning, Ethan was born. And what a great day. I held our son, our healthy little baby, and saw all the potential and the future rolling out before us.
As we think about Ethan and his life and all the things that made Ethan, there are two significant inflection points. One was on November 8, 2012, when Ethan received his official autism diagnosis. By the time his diagnosis arrived, it wasn't any big surprise. We had a pretty good idea that it was coming. Ethan had been receiving services for over a year, and we could definitely see his struggles with his gross and fine motor skills and his speech communication. Not to mention all of his preferences for, toast. But that piece of paper with the psychiatrist's signature put us on a path that changed the course of our lives and our family forever.
The second turning point was much more recent. And like his first diagnosis, it didn't come as any huge surprise, but it was a huge blow nonetheless. On September 11th, 2020, while still in the PICU, we received the official paperwork detailing Ethan's tumor. It was a monumental inflection point. The thing about inflection points is once they've occurred, life afterwards is completely different. And Ethan's cancer diagnosis flipped our world upside down. His cancer diagnosis, like his autism diagnosis, was a path that chose him. Once on the cancer path, there's really not a whole lot of choice. You can't go back. You can't really even stay put. The only real choice is forward. Or as Stefanie often says, onward.
While at the hospital, it was one hurdle after another, and we found the cadence of our life in room 67, echoing a book that we read to Ethan a lot as a child. If we're going on a bear hunt, we're going to catch a big one. We're not scared.
But we were really scared.
The book continues, and the characters encounter, the next obstacle, and the chorus repeats itself. Can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go around it, you got to go through it. And now that Ethan is gone, we find ourselves still repeating this cadence as we find a path forward through our grief and life without Ethan. But these lines from this book aren't just about, but the lines from this book aren't just true about raising a child on the spectrum, or about childhood cancer, or about grief. They're also words for how to live and how to walk the paths that we find ourselves on. If you want to actually be alive and not just awake, you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you can't go around it, you got to go through it.
Those of you that know us well know that we listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey and take a lot to heart what he has to say about personal finance and his principles of leadership. He frequently quotes a man named Charlie Jones. He said, "In 5 years, you will be the same person you are today, except the people you meet and the books that you read." I would like to add a third component to this and have it say, in 5 years, you will be the same person you are today, except for the people you meet, the books that you read, and the diagnosis your child receives.
There are a lot of people that came into Ethan's life because of his autism diagnosis. Many of you are here today because your path crossed with a little boy that needed developmental services. When Ethan was younger, we had so many people coming to the house to work with Ethan. We joked that Ethan got along so well with adults because he spent so many years on our living room floor playing with them. But, Ethan thought it was just play, but really it was learning how to use his words and developing his fine motor skills by cutting with scissors and developing his self-help skills by buttoning buttons and zippering zippers. This went on for several years. One time UPS dropped off a package and rang the doorbell. Holly opened the door and saw the delivery man and said, "Ethan, there's someone here for you." That's a funny moment, but the truth is we did have a lot of people coming into our home and into our lives because of Ethan's autism. Joey and I made connections in our community and with other parents that we probably wouldn't have if Ethan was a more typical kid.
And Ethan wasn't a typical kid, and he didn't have typical interests. Ethan liked gardening, and he liked growing flowers. There was no order to his gardening. He'd just take his packet, rip off the top, and sprinkle the seeds where they landed, and cover it with some good manure, water it, overwater it, and watch his crops grow and overgrow. The bigger the better, and weeds were more than welcome, as long as they grew big and full too. Ethan's love of gardening grew into his love of succulents.
Ethan grew and developed, and when he turned 10, he was definitely not the same child he was when he was a 5-year-old. As a 10-year-old, Ethan was a business owner. He had a sign and a greenhouse and business cards. And bless all of you that are here today that came to one of his sales and bought a succulent or a birdhouse from him. He was so proud of his plants and birdhouses, and his business brought so much meaning into his life. Ethan's business brought people into his life, and his succulent customers and birdhouse friends enriched his life with love and encouragement. As I helped Ethan navigate sales and conversations with his customers, I couldn't help but compare the boy in front of me with the little boy who didn't say his first words until he was 3, and even at the age of 3, had so many substitutions and omissions in his sounds he couldn't be understood without a parent translating. I'm amazed at how much a little boy with a social disability was able to grow into an elementary kid who had developed meaningful connections with a diverse group of people. True, most of his friends were still adults, but he didn't mind. I think he preferred it. Adults are more predictable and more patient and have deeper pockets. Over the course of 5 years, a non-communicative preschooler turned into a chatterbox business owner. Ethan was blessed by the people he met who crossed his path for one reason or another and filled him up with love and purpose.
You will be the same person you are today, except for the people you meet and the books that you read. And Ethan liked to read. Actually, that boy loved to read. One day, Ethan came home with a big chapter book titled City of Orphans by Avi. I have no idea why this book, but he selected it and he wanted to read it, and so over the next couple of weeks, we'd take a couple chapters here and a couple chapters there. And this led Stephanie to getting another book by the same author called the Poppy series. More appropriate. It had chapters and classic themes of fear and courage with classic animal characters with human-like characteristics. We read the Poppy series and Ethan enjoyed it. When we finished it, we moved on to Redwall. Ethan loved Redwall. It took us about a year and a half, but we managed to read every single title in the Redwall series. It's like 22 books. Mostly, I read orally to Ethan every night. A handful he listened to on Audible because he was too impatient to wait for me. Ethan loved book series, and it was very important to him to read a series in order. His first series that he read independently was Harry Potter. He enjoyed books with fantasy and magic and dragons. He also enjoyed mystery thrillers and the classic potty talk of Captain Underpants.
When Ethan would finish a book, he would take a reading test on it at school, and the reading program kept track of all the books he read and also calculated his cumulative word count. It was a daily, if not hourly, topic of conversation for Ethan. This book has this many words and is worth this many points. Ethan had reading goals, and he was motivated to achieve them. Books and reading tests, like his succulent business, followed a pattern of work-reward. I read the book, I take the test, I get the points. And he thrived with this type of simple, predictable system.
Just as Ethan found a lot of his identity and confidence in being a business owner, he found a similar confidence at being a part of the Million-Word Reading Club at school. He loved his books, he loved being read to, he loved reading, he loved listening to books on Audible, and he loved that he had a business that could support his appetite for books. He loved shopping for books. He collected the whole series, and he would love to pre-order the next book months before it was released on Amazon.
In the hospital, Ethan's tumor prevented him from doing a lot of the things he enjoyed doing. Ethan's vision was compromised not only by the tumor taking up residence in his brain, but also because of the stroke he suffered in the occipital part of his brain. Even though Ethan's vision struggled, his ears still worked well, and his heart still loved books. And so many hours were spent by his bedside reading. Reading provided an escape from his circumstances, an adventure beyond his hospital room.
While at the hospital, Ethan read a lot of books and made a lot of new friends. When I remember Ethan as a preschooler, and then I see him as a grown-up 10-year-old boy, I can't help but see this quote being played out. He's the same kid, except for the people that he met and the books that he read. And it's because of those diagnoses he received.
I can't say that I'm really thankful that Ethan was diagnosed with autism. I mean, some days were really rough. Those of you that worked with him at school experienced his struggles with group dynamics and peer interaction. So I'm not necessarily thankful for his autism. I am thankful for all the autism that made Ethan Ethan. Where did Ethan's autism end and he begin? Ethan and his autism are one and the same. Ethan defined his autism, and his autism defined him. I am thankful, though, for all the people that are a part of our lives because of Ethan's autism. Our lives are richer, are fuller, because Ethan's journey with his autism diagnosis. His cancer diagnosis is another story. I could have definitely done without that one. Watching Ethan experience 9 weeks of life as a cancer kid broke our hearts. 9 weeks is such a brief amount of time, but while at the hospital, those 9 weeks stretched out and felt like 9 months. During those long days at the hospital, we got to read a lot of books and meet a lot of new people. Even though cancer took our child, it also brought many wonderful people into our lives that we wouldn't have met otherwise or really connected with without cancer.
Ethan wasn't the only one who changed because he read books and met people. His parents met some people and read some books too. Early on in our hospital stay at UC Davis, we were reminded of some encouraging words that we had read from John O'Leary. Steph and I got his book on fire, and while Ethan slept for 13 days after his surgeries, we read and we took notes. One of the early key takeaways: you can't always choose the manner. You can't always choose the path that you walk in life, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk it. I'll read it again. You can't always choose the path you walk in life, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk it. These were pivotal words, an inflection point for me as a parent in the hospital, and even now as a grieving parent. We're on a path, and there's only one direction, and that's onward.
We are not immune to life struggles. Ethan's autism and cancer diagnosis brought tidal waves of struggle, not only for Ethan, but also his family. It isn't easy being a sibling when your brother's in the hospital, and it isn't easy navigating parents of a special needs child. And when we find ourselves struggling, we need to remember that the way forward may not be easy, and it may not be at all like we expected, but it is possible. We're not alone, and the best is yet to come. We can either become victims of the tragedy, or we can rise above it and be a victor instead. We do have a choice.
Gonna make it. It's the hard part.
You wrote this part.
Save the best for last. The shortest verse in the Bible is John 11:35, and it reads, Jesus wept. Now, I'll give you a little more context. Jesus had received word that his friend Lazarus was very sick. 4 days passed before Jesus finally arrives on the scene, knowing that Lazarus has already died. And the Bible states that Jesus wept. But why? Why would the all-powerful God weep for a man that he's going to raise from the dead in moments? See, God wasn't weeping for Lazarus. He was weeping for his friends. He was weeping for Mary and Martha because they had lost their brother. And today, Jesus weeps for us. We lost our son. We lost our grandson, a nephew, a cousin, a friend. And today, I do not cry for Ethan, because our worst day is his best. What seems like the end for Ethan is really just his beginning. Today, he's walking in paradise with Jesus. And great Papa Al is probably right there, and I bet that they're at Denny's eating puppies, because that's what heaven is to Ethan. Ethan has been restored to the Father above. His cancer is gone. His struggle and pain are no more. Today, I weep because of the Ethan-shaped hole in my heart. And I have no desire to close the gap, to cover it with a Band-Aid, to try and fill the void where my son lies. Today, I'm choosing to be joyful for the moments that were gifted to us. 10 wonderful years. For the past 10 years, Ethan has been a teacher to me. He helped me develop a deeper love for my family in the early stages of his cancer diagnosis. All the fears of the unknowns of things that we couldn't control. But it was through that time that we were able to get past those fears. He helped me pay close attention to all the little details around us. He taught me how to enjoy being a father, even when parenting wasn't very enjoyable. He helped me develop a deeper joy and laughter and the realization that there's a little bit of autism in all of us. And so, there's so many ways that little boy helped me become a better dad, a better husband, and a better man. And that's why in the hospital, we had to choose how we were going to walk the path with Ethan.
We wanted as many quality days with Ethan that we could get. Days without fear, without pain, without anxiety. Days full of reading books, eating cookies, making new friends with the medical staff, and watching America's Funniest Videos. We were able to soak up every moment that we could with our sweet son, and we got them. No one would choose this path, but we walked the path as best we could for Ethan.
As difficult as the past months have been, the journey forward will be equally as difficult. Can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go around it. We've got to go through it. So, friends, family, what do? We choose. We choose how we walk the path. We choose to be victors. We choose to be alive and not just awake. We may weep because we've lost someone near and dear to us, but we choose to find gratitude in our hearts because God gave us 10 great years with Ethan, full of good books and even better friends. We let our tears of sadness turn to tears of joy because we will be reunited with him one day in heaven. Ethan touched so many of our lives. His smile, his laughter, his inquisitive nature, his quirks, his salesmanship, his company as we would go for a drive, his love for us all. And so, I'll close with this. I was recently listening to a sermon series on the book of Esther by Pastor Max Lucado, The Call to Courage. Lucado asked, what if God was in this? What if God knew that your neighborhood would need someone like you, and he placed you there? What if God knew that your family would need your resolve, so he placed you there? What if God knew your workplace right now needed somebody with faith and hope, so he placed you there? What if you, like Esther, have an opportunity to act in a way that will bless more people than you can ever imagine? Here's what I think. This is your hour. This is your moment. At our worst, God made us our best, just for you. Thank you so much for coming today.